Good morning and welcome back to the Creative Connection podcast. So today's episode, we're going to divert just a little bit from what we've been talking about over the last several weeks. We began a series in September about reclaiming your voice, reigniting your vision, and lastly, reclaiming or realigning with what matters most. And over the last several weeks, 8 weeks to be exact, I have had many guests on who have either learned how to reclaim their voice or have reignited a vision that they had from the past of something that they wanted for themselves in their life. And finally, this last week, we talked about soul alignment with Janet Therese. Well, the holidays are upon us, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or any other holiday that happens at this time of year. Maybe it's just the winter solstice is something that you celebrate. This time of year can drum up stress. It can drum up chaos. It can have things percolate that have been brewing inside of you for the whole year. And as we enter these dark months and find ourselves hibernating at home, sometimes those things bubble up to the surface and we find ourselves in the midst of chaos. Well, while the holidays can be beautiful, they can be loud and they can be busy and emotionally charged and a little overwhelming for some of us. I am one of those that gets a little overwhelmed when it comes to having a lot of family around. For some, it's overwhelmed in relationship because maybe this time of year you have this vision and dream of something that you want to have happen and it doesn't. Today I was joined by my husband. We just recorded a little bit ago on a conversation around tools and practices and things you could put into a holiday backpack to help you manage your stress, perhaps the emotional overload. This week on my LinkedIn newsletter, I talked about Hell Week. And while I am in theater and I know what that term means, it's Tech Week and everything that could go haywire sometimes goes haywire. And you never want or expect a perfect tech week or dress rehearsal because it's superstitious to have such. But there can be a hell week, so to speak, towards things like launching a product or having the family over for the holidays and the big meal. Dan will share that it's not about fixing people or making the holidays perfect. It's about being regulated and connected and grounded, even if things don't go as planned. This 15-minute conversation is filled with little tidbits and jewels and simple, doable things that you can use in real time at the dinner table, in the car, or when old family dynamics show up. So wherever you're listening, take a breath with us now into your body. And let's have a conversation about what might work for items that you can practically put into your holiday backpack. Enjoy. Well, it's always great to have my husband with me.
Hello.
Even when we're talking about 10, 15 miles apart, but you know, what the hey, right?
That's right. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
And we both, so the topic is apropos because we both kind of had a little bit of a chaotic morning. And
Indeed.
as I shared on my LinkedIn newsletter this week, it's also Hell Week. And Hell Week is, that week leading up to a show or an event or a whatnot. And, you and I have been doing various different Hell Weeks.
Yep.
40 plus years.
For a very long time.
Yes. And I'm just, what part of what I wanted to do today is, what do you see that is most often that comes up for couples first around this time of year? And not everybody celebrates Christmas. There's many other holidays this time.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what usually comes up for
Oh my.
people?
Well, first of all, it's you got Thanksgiving and then Christmas, and they are so close together, like a month apart most of the time, 4 weeks. And so there's a lot of travel and there's a lot of pressure to, perform or to have meals with the right people, right? Like we had our Thanksgiving on Friday because the other people in our family needed to do things on Thursday. And then 4 weeks later you have Christmas. And this is the time where people are supposed to be happy and joyful and reconnect and things like that. So there's a lot of pressure that couples and families are under
Mhm.
to perform or to be good, and that often does not end up
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. And, for some of us, and I'm going to say me, because growing up, my holiday times were very interesting. We were never in one place. We either were going back and forth between Michigan and Minnesota, or even as I got older, Minnesota and Washington for me. And I find that sometimes my brain
Hmm.
has old patterns resurface, which just add to the present moment chaos and stress that's going on.
Absolutely.
Is that a common thing? Am I
Oh,
unusual?
uh, well, not in that way. Uh, no, you're not unusual in that way at all. So many people get back into old patterns. I remember in my family of origin, I was the peacemaker, but I was also kind of clumsy. And I remember, when you and I got together and we would go back for Christmas, and I would break things, I would drop things, I would spill things, and so that was, it's kind of a silly thing, but it was a pattern that I almost sometimes I call it like a post-hypnotic trance that I get into, right? I go back into that environment and I start acting like I did when I was a child or a teenager. Um,
Well,
and
and what's really funny, and this is a personal story that comes up, is that when we first started dating and you would come to my house,
mhm,
that happened too. So your pattern that you had at home moved to my house, and my parents lovingly referred to you as the bull in the china shop.
yes, that was your mother. I think your mother was, very, very kind and but also had a sense of humor. So
Yes,
yes, that
yes.
was true. That was true.
Yeah.
What was a
Yeah.
pattern that you had when that
I wanted, and you have experienced this with me, I wanted the table to be set correctly. I wanted the food all to come out at the same time. I wanted certain things at the meal, and I wanted the pattern of how the days progressed to always be the same. And what's interesting, because both of us have, since our growing up years, have delved into this world of being more mindful and being present.
right.
And it's interesting to catch myself in the old pattern and ask the question, does it really matter?
If everything comes out at once or if everything's hot and and right. And I mean, this last Thanksgiving we forgot the cranberry sauce in the
And that I
in the
that I
fridge.
made.
I know. And
Yeah.
so I've noticed that in you that that sometimes you get tense because things aren't going the way they should, or things aren't lined up. I noticed that you've changed and mellowed out over the years, and in some because of the work you've done and the work we've been doing. So
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you? What do you find now that you are in your mid 60s and we've developed a pattern or a tango, I like to call it a tango or pattern in our relationship that is completely different than the homes that we grew up in. It's sort of a good meld of the homes that we grew up.
well, there are things that we both do because we love it. We sing in the choir and sing for, Christmas Eve. And so I think that's something we've done for years and years, decades
Mm-hmm.
together. In terms of the family patterns, I think we're more flexible than we were when we were younger. We always had to go to this family on Christmas Eve and this family on Christmas Day, and there was a lot of conflict there. And we're much more relaxed about that, and we let our kids, affirm our kids doing whatever it is they need to do, and
Yeah.
don't lay a lot of pressure on them. And so it's the presence. You talked about presence with a CE, not presence with a TS at the end, right?
Right.
So that we love being present and we love having our families be together in
Yeah.
presence.
Yeah. So we've talked about, we've sort of circled around this idea of there is chaos and there is stress. Let's just
Mhm.
acknowledge it.
Yep.
That's a part of what's happening.
Yep.
Whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever else you might celebrate. Maybe
Mhm.
it's just the solstice,
Mhm.
whatever it
Right.
is, right?
Right.
And then there's these old patterns we have that sometimes surface, and we're wondering why we might be reacting a certain way to a certain someone or to
Hmm.
an instance. What are some things that we could share with our listeners that are tools that they could put in a backpack of survival for the holidays?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I
What
love
are
that
some
idea.
tools that you, as the clinical psychologist, might recommend
Okay.
for that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a backpack, or as the kids were joking last night, a fanny pack, right? Um, so I think the first thing is to pause or notice. So either one can happen first. Noticing probably is the thing that should happen first, because you're going to notice that you're tense, that your shoulders are up around your ears, or you got kind of a shortness of breath, or you notice that you're squinting, or snapping more easily, and so that's the noticing. Something's going on, and then pausing, and then breathing. And sometimes putting a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly when you breathe is really helpful. Kind of gives you some somatic experience while you're breathing, an external somatic experience. And then, so you notice, and then you pause, and then you breathe. And then the thing that I teach my clients, both coaching and clinical clients, is that we then poll ourselves. We take a poll. Okay. How's my head? What am I thinking?
Mm,
How's my heart? What am I feeling? And then what's happening in my body?
mhm.
And then what's happening in my energy or my spirit? And so I encourage people, and I do this myself, to poll, and then as part of that polling, what needs do I have? And what values underlie all of these experiences,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes those values can lead to, expectations, and the expectations, when they're unmet, lead to frustration. So if we go backwards, we can go, wait, I'm frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Because these expectations aren't being met. And so what values are underlying these expectations?
And are they still valid? So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
funny thing is that our expectations and our values are connected, but over time they shift. And so asking,
If we allow them to shift, or if we
yeah,
work,
well, so we mature in our values, I believe. It
sure.
is my belief that we evolve and mature in our values. And so a checking in every once in a while with the question, what really matters right now?
Yes.
And then adding to what you've shared. So if you're in a couple relationship or maybe a friend relationship, a really deep friend relationship, And, during this time of year, particularly, and maybe there are other times of the year for other people, but asking the question of each other, what do you need that I can support you with
Mm-hmm.
right now? And just taking a couple of minutes to do that and check in and see if there's something that I could help you with, or you could help me with, or if you're in a relationship with a really good friend and they are your support network,
Yeah.
doing that with your really good friend, because we all need, whether we want to believe it or not, we all need support.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
humans were meant to be social creatures,
We
and
were. We are.
that's one thing. And the second thing is, our lives are based in story. And so we can choose to have the story go the way that we believe it should go, or to allow the story to move and flow and transform.
Uh-huh.
And in the river of chaos, I think about where we are right now.
Yeah.
We are in Washington State, and we are experiencing record flooding, and to just watch that water is rushing and flowing, and there's not a darn thing
We could do
to
about
do
it.
about it.
Right.
But to stand back and to just notice, I think you mentioned noticing,
Yep. Yep.
to pause, to breathe.
And then after the polling, this is the part that, to answer your question, what do people do to help support each other? Well, they have to communicate, right? They have to communicate what those values are. Most of the time people are communicating, at this surface level about, hey, you snapped at me, or hey, why didn't you do the dishes, or, things like that. And then under here at the value level, it's really, I want to be supported in my mission or my beliefs, or my goal of having us have a peaceful or vibrant or exciting experience. I teach couples about the path, right? um, and here we are now, and the goal is up here. This is what we want. And so collaborating at this value level to develop a common goal for the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for
Yeah.
you and I, we could say, well, I know that you and I both want connection with our family and with our kids. And, but I know that you would rather have it be a little quieter, right? And I want it to be, vibrant. I want to play games.
Boisterous and loud.
Boisterous and loud. I mean, it's just the outcome of,
Yeah.
competition, playing games. And so together we can create this goal of having a vibrant experience that is loud enough, but not too loud, right?
Or to allow the other to go off and do something that is so. Quite often I will leave the space where the loudness is occurring because I get overwhelmed by the noisiness of
And
it.
I support you in that, and I don't chastise you, or, sometimes I'll ask you to come back and play again, but other times I'm just like, I understand that this is what you need.
And I think we are actually role modeling that for the boys, in that every once in a while, our middle son's wife needs to leave too. It's too
Hmm.
much. It's become too much. And there's permission in that ability to leave.
Right.
Well, this was just meant to be a brief
Hmm.
conversation about this, but is there anything that you could share? Um,
Like quick techniques or
quick,
something.
one quick tip, perhaps. Yes.
Okay. So, co-regulation is an important thing. And so, if a value is, or a value or a mantra or an intention is that we take care of each other, then remembering that at the beginning of each day or before an event occurs, we're like, wait, we take care of each other. or we honor each other. Whatever the mantra or intention or shared value is, repeating that and reminding each other and yourself of that. Another thing that is really important is naming emotions. Right. And there's lots of resources online. You can go, the Gottman Feeling Wheel is online, and there's many others. Brene Brown has a bunch, and she's got her atlas. And so naming those feelings and using like the psychologist phrase, I feel this way when this happens and I need this.
Yeah. I mean, you say that it's a psychologist thing, but I have to share that one of the things that I have learned over the course of our relationship is that there's more agency, personal autonomy in an I statement than there is in the you did this or
Yes,
you made me.
Yes, exactly.
So
yes,
as I have learned in the work that I do, teaching people that it's they have power in the I and they own their feelings. That's right. And when you are an actor on stage, you are in charge, and so you have to find your path.
Yes, and in coaching or psychology, autonomy and agency is so central, right? I am this person. I have these feelings. I am getting a phone call, and
that's okay. We're almost done. Yeah.
And so I get to be the actor. I get to be the crafter. And in a relationship, it's really I am this, and the other person says, I am this, yes. This is important to me, and this is important to me. And then you come together and say, all right, what do we share as common values? And if we do, spectacular. If there are other values that don't overlap or other needs that don't overlap, that's also spectacular because it gives us an opportunity to support each other.
Right, exactly. Well, Dan, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me to come.
I love you. I hope you have a great day at work.
Thanks. I hope you have a great day too. We'll see you tonight at the opening.
At the opening of our show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
So, true confessions as we wrap up today. Dan and I had a very full week. Dan mentions that we'll see each other tonight at opening night. I have been directing a musical for the last 11 weeks. This is the end of the 11th week. And this was, in fact, Tech Week / Hell Week for us. And our paths have been going like this all week. Off to work, back at rehearsal. Off to wherever we're going, back at rehearsal. And on top of that, I started a new show at a middle school. So this morning's conversation is an example of taking even just 15 minutes to have a conversation and put it on your calendar. And maybe it's over Zoom like ours was. But this is just a reminder that calm isn't something that you either have or don't have. It's something that you practice with intention. You have to have intention to make time for that 2-minute check-in. What can I do to support you? Or it's lovely to see you. Or as I shared in our parting words, I love you, Dan, and I hope you have a great day at work. Dan indicated that the holidays don't have to have perfection. They invite awareness, flexibility, and some compassion, both for yourself and for those around you. If there's one thing from today's conversation that stays with you, let it be this. You get to choose what you carry in your back. Let it be breath, pause, curiosity, kindness, and maybe even some boundaries. Give yourself permission to say no to some things and yes to the things that really matter. And like I do in our home, and I indicated in our conversation, when things start to feel tense or overwhelming, taking a moment to step away, Come back to your body, to your breath. Those two things can change everything. Well, thank you for spending just a few minutes with us today. And if this episode was helpful for you in any way, I invite you to subscribe and share with someone you know that could very well use what we might have shared today that resonated with you. Whether it was the presence or the connection or just having the courage to walk away when things get overwhelmed. And if you are feeling called to slow down at this time of year and reconnect before we launch into 2026, I would love to invite you to an event that I'm participating in. I have participated in this one other time, and then I was a voyeur another time, but it's the Feminine Frequency Festival that begins on December 1st on Facebook, and it's a Facebook group called the Feminine Frequency Festival. And I will be offering on December 27th at 10 a.m. I will be asleep. At 10 a.m. Pacific, I am offering a 20-minute awareness of how to activate your inner magic before we launch into 2026. It is a beautiful space, whether it be my conversation or others. This Feminine Frequency Festival is a beautiful space to pause, to reflect, and to come home to yourself. I intend on being live next week as well, just myself, with maybe a little story or two. This time of year, as a storyteller, I love to share stories, and it being that time of year when there are lots of things happening, I think I've got a story or two I can share with you. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I wish you a calm, connected holiday season, and we will see you next time.